Instead of going to the grocery store this week, I used up these items plus some more things from around my kitchen to make meals, snacks, and even desserts for my family. I had actually intended to start a completely different video today, a budget grocery haul followed by a budget meal plan, but I ran into a little bit of a dilemma. We already have a good bit of food in this house. I just could not pull the trigger on purchasing more until we go through some of what we have. For instance, I'm standing in my pantry right now and I noticed that I have 2 partially used boxes of spaghetti and fettuccine, probably not even a cup of basmati rice in this bag, half a bag of egg noodles, maybe a half a cup of arborio rice, plus a smidge of this organic sprouted brown rice. So when I'm talking about clutter in my kitchen and in my pantry, fridge, and freezer, this is sort of what I'm talking about. Except that unlike some clutter that isn't always very useful to us, this is very useful because it's food and it can feed us. So instead of going to the store and buying more of it, I'm gonna try to find a way to use this. And that will not only help reduce waste, it will help reduce the clutter of open packages of things hanging out in my pantry. And by the way, just a little tip, I usually keep open packages of starches like this in one spot in my pantry. See how they're all in this basket? And I put it in front of all of the unopened packages of those things so that I'll know that I need to go and use this stuff up first before I open a new package. I also need to do just a quick tidy up here. I mean, this right here tells me that somebody was standing here deciding what they wanted to eat and probably snacked on this and then left the trash for me here, even though the trash can is about 6 steps away in the kitchen. And look here, you guys, see this big package of golden Oreos? This was purchased for me by my wonderful children as a Mother's Day gift. They purchased several of my favorite items and they purchased this for me for Mother's Day. And I have had about 3 of these cookies. Do you know how many of them are left here in this package? 2 cookies. One cookie. You know how there are all of those television shows and shows on streaming platforms and social media accounts and blogs and websites that are all about clutter and how to tame it? And a lot of those websites and shows and personalities and social media influencers are telling us that clutter can actually contribute to our overall mood, that it can possibly even affect our mental and emotional well-being. It can create feelings of anxiety, and that getting clutter under control can go a long way to making us feel better. I can totally understand and completely buy into that viewpoint because I am a person who is easily overstimulated. So I try to simplify, declutter, organize around my home as much as I possibly can. And this includes in the kitchen. I find that when I have too much food hanging around in my house, I am overwhelmed, and sometimes I get that analysis paralysis about what to actually make to feed myself and my family. Now, I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with keeping a stockpile of items that you or your family frequently use. There are some people who have extensive pantries or rooms or basements in their household where they are able to keep lots of stock of items that they use frequently, and they're able to keep track of it, to make good use of it, and not to let it go to waste. I am just not one of those people. I find that when I overbuy things, stuff gets pushed to the back of the refrigerator or hides in the back of the pantry, and sometimes I don't find it for weeks or months or even years later. That's why whenever I start to feel this way, I do a pantry challenge, and I usually make a video about it and take you along with me as I am trying to use up things around my kitchen. Open packages of things that have been in the refrigerator or the freezer for a while, just stuff that needs to get used up because it can, you know, save us money if I'm not going to the grocery store as soon as I had thought that I would. And also it helps to reduce waste. And let's face it, at least here in the United States, we waste a lot of food. I have a lot of this style of videos, so if you like what you see here and you want more ideas or you just want more inspiration about how to, you know, reduce waste in your own home and use up the food that you have on hand, you can check out the playlist in the description box because I have put all of my pantry cooking and use it up challenges in that playlist. Plus, I have a pantry cooking ebook full of recipes from my pantry cooking videos from last year, 2021. That's linked in the description box as well. But one of the questions or comments that I get get repeatedly on these types of videos are, how do I come up with my ideas? Or people who are just, you know, expressing surprise that I'm able to take a look around at things and just sort of come up with ideas for how to use it up. So I thought this time I would actually take you along and give you a tour of my pantry, fridge, and freezer and kind of take you through my thought process for how I, you know, discover items that need to be used up and how I decide what I'm going to do with those things. And hopefully that will give you a little bit of inspiration and maybe give you some strategy for how you can implement the same thing in your home. So I'm sitting here just staring into the refrigerator, and I only have a couple of minutes because it's a hot day and I don't want too much of the cool to release. But I do see a lot going on here. One of which is that I have quite a few cheese slices in cold cuts. And I'm actually very happy to see that because we have a super busy night and a couple of nights. In addition to our regular kids activities like swimming and baseball, we have a band concert as well. And I can already tell that we are going to need to probably pack something to eat for dinner on the go. So I can throw together some sandwiches with the bread and the tortilla options that I have in the bread box, then use the cheese and the cold cuts, add some crackers or pretzels and maybe a little bit of fruit, and I'll be able to kind of pack everybody a dinner that they can eat at various and sundry times throughout the evening as we are coming and going. And speaking of zooming around, I want to take a break for just a second to talk about our sponsor, Upside. Upside is an app you can download that gives cash back from certain retailers whenever you buy gas, groceries, or eat out. In fact, the cashback on gas is one of the reasons that I downloaded the app. I put a question in my Instagram stories a few weeks ago asking you guys for gas prices around the country, and wow. So getting a little cash back in my Upside app every single time I fill up my tank helps to soften the blow just a little bit. To get started, download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play. Use my promo code Mindy and you can get $5 or more cash back whenever you make your first purchase of $10 or more. Use the app to search for gas stations and grocery stores and restaurants that are offering cash back in your area, and then you can claim the offers that you want to redeem. And collectively, Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week, and you can cash out at any time to your bank account, to PayPal, or you can select an e-gift card to someplace like Amazon or other retailers that are available on Upside. I have to say that another happy thing that occurred as a result of me downloading the Upside app is realizing that Casey's is now in the Tulsa area. And if you don't know what Casey's is, I'm sorry, but if you do know what Casey's is, the general store, the convenience store, the gas station, then you probably know why I'm celebrating. So it has been a delight to visit some of the Casey's in my area to fill up my tank and to get cash back on Upside whenever I do that. This is a free app that you can find in the App Store or Google Play, so don't forget to go check out Upside. And if you do, you can use the promo code Mindy to get $5 or more cash back whenever you make your first purchase of $10 or more. And thanks again to Upside for sponsoring today's video. We are out here in my gorgeous garage. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it lovely? And do you guys notice like all of the bottles behind me, all the various and sundry like wine and liquor bottles, maybe a couple of beer bottles. I've been collecting those for a few years because I had thought I was gonna do some kind of really cool project with them, like paint them really neat or something, but they've been sitting there for months and months, some of them for a couple of years. So probably time for that clutter to go to the recycle bin. Ooh, look, I look like all windswept. My chest freezer is right here, and this is where I keep a few items, and I wanted to see what kind of proteins I had because I usually will have a little bit of meat here in the chest freezer for the week. And one of the first things I noticed when I opened this up were some meatballs, not like the fully cooked frozen kind, the kind that you have to cook because it's still raw. And already the wheels are turning because I remember those partially used bags of pasta that I found in the pantry. And I also know from having peered into my inside freezer on top of the regular refrigerator that I still have a couple of containers of that homemade marinara that I made for that spaghetti dinners video that you guys will have seen last month. I will leave it linked in the description box below if you want to go and check that out. So already I'm thinking, you know what? I think maybe we're gonna have some spaghetti and meatballs for dinner tonight. In fact, hold that thought because I'm gonna go ahead and go get that going in the crock pot. Okay, we're back in the garage. I also noticed whenever I open this up that I have an entire bag of chicken breast. I purchased this a few weeks ago whenever I made a video for you guys about name brand versus store brand items, and I purchased 20 of the same items in both name brand and store brand. Again, I'll leave that video link in the description box. You can watch it after you watch this one. Long story short, I've got 3 pounds of chicken breast that I can use this week. Yay! Plus I have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 bags of frozen broccoli here in my vegetable bag in the chest freezer. So I can definitely tell you what side veggie is gonna be on the menu this week. Plus I have a few other vegetable options in case I come up with some way to use those or we just get tired of broccoli. I actually made the decision to move forward with a pantry cooking video yesterday in an attempt to use up some things around my kitchen, because when I opened up the refrigerator, I noticed that there were a couple of cartons of salsa and queso from a local restaurant that my husband had ordered from over the weekend. And there were also some Hawaiian rolls left over from the Mother's Day dinner that my kids prepared for me. And I knew that I had some pulled pork that had been in the freezer for a couple of months. So I decided that I would get that pork out and toss it into the crock pot to heat up, that I would use the rolls to make some delicious sliders, and I even made a little bit of sauce to go on top of them as well from butter and Worcestershire and a little Dijon mustard and Auntie Nono's. And to the restaurant queso, I also saw in the door of the refrigerator that we had a half-used jar of white queso in the jar from the grocery store. So I combined those two and heated them up, and along with some tortilla chips and a little bit of fruit, some grapes that I washed up, we had ourselves a delicious dinner, all from stuff that just had been hanging out in our refrigerator or freezer and needed to get used up. Back here in the refrigerator, and here are a few other things that I have found that I'd like to make use of. One of them is this half-used jar of pesto that I used in a video last week. My kids are not huge fans of pesto, and we're already having pasta one time this week, but I'm kind of wondering if this would make a good marinade for some of that chicken that I found in the chest freezer earlier. And a quick little Pinterest search confirms for me that yes, indeed it does. And it even suggests adding a little bit of olive oil and a touch of salt and a little squeeze of lemon, which is fantastic because I also have 1 lemon sitting out on the counter that needs to get used up. In searching for that, I also discovered a banana that had gotten so ripe that it actually blended in with my really dark counters, and I had completely not noticed it because it was basically camouflaged. I also have a few blocks of cheddar cheese that I can shred up and use how I want. And I noticed that I have this block of Parmesan and this block of Pecorino Romano, but I purchased these for a specific video that I plan to make for you guys that I put on the back burner for a few days. If you know anything about Pecorino Romano, you might have an idea of how I intend to use this, the very simple, really old recipe that has been around for centuries that I plan to use this for. But these keep a long time in the refrigerator, so they're okay. We're just gonna put them in the back until I'm ready to make that video. And since my kids don't like pesto, I see that I have a jar of this hoisin sauce back here. I think I can probably use this and some soy sauce and my good friend Pinterest to create another marinade for the kids that will be a little bit more like a barbecue style. The disposal because the dishwasher is running. So I think I can probably use this to create some kind of like barbecue style or like an Asian style marinade for the rest of the chicken that I'm not gonna marinate with the pesto, so the kids can eat that. This right here is about 3 servings of a chicken bacon gnocchi that I made for a video that you will have already seen on my channel as well. As you can tell, stuff that I've made or purchased for videos and needing to use that up is a common recurring theme here in my refrigerator. But I think what I'll do with this is just wrap it up in saran wrap and pop it into the freezer because we're in those final few weeks of school when it gets really hectic and everybody's tired, and I can pop this into the oven and have a really quick meal for a couple of people one night, or maybe for lunch for my husband and myself next week. I also found 2 open and partially used jars of this strawberry jam that my kids really like, but this should not be difficult to use up. My kids really like peanut butter sandwiches with this, and I also noticed something in the freezer that we can use this on. 1, 2 open packages of waffles and 1 unopened package of waffles. So these would be great vessels for the preserves that I found in the refrigerator. Plus I have 4 bags filled with Parmesan rinds. Do you guys like my Star Wars themed Ziploc bags here? I save the rinds of the Parmesan wedges that I buy and I use them in various things. Oh, I should throw some of these into the meatball marinara that I have going in the crock pot. I'm gonna do that. And I'm going to combine the rest of them into 1 bag because I don't need 4 bags floating around in my freezer with the same thing. And now that I have gone through my pantry, fridge, and freezers more thoroughly, and you have started to see me kind of hash out some of the ideas that are popping into my mind from the things that I found, I will get out a meal planner, my meal planning notepad, and I will start to jot down some of those ideas. I might even pull out my computer so I can go on the internet, or get out my phone so I can go on Pinterest and find some ideas for ways that I can use some of the things that I found. This grocery bag is overflowing with just a sampling of the empty packages of some of the stuff that we used up this week. A lot of these items were partially used or short dated or had been hanging out in the fridge or the pantry for a while. Like this cake mix, there was only half a cake mix in here, and I also had half a bag of brownie mix as well, and I used that to create kind of like a brownie slash cookie blondie type thing by using the cake mix to make little cake mix cookie balls and then spreading the brownie mix over the top and baking it. This now empty bag of half noodles was the inspiration for a noodle dish that included some smoked sausage that I had in the refrigerator, and it was a recipe that I had pinned on Pinterest for a while and wanted to try, so I'll leave that linked in the description box below. And now they are gone. Yay! I hope that this was helpful and gave you some tips and some strategies to use in your own kitchen, and there is a whole playlist of pantry cooking and use it up challenge videos in the description box below. Plus, don't forget to check out the Upside app in the App Store or Google Play and use the promo code Mindy to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more.